So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm proud to welcome you here for the next four presentations for the EVIA Fan Forum. We summarized in total four presentations, totally in conjunction with the FAN, according eco-design for sustainable products, PEF LCA, and the surroundings about the regulative framework in Europe. First of all, I would like to introduce a bit EVIA. I'm the Technical Secretary of the European Ventilation Industry Association. We are, I would say, the speaker for the ventilation and indoor air quality in Europe. We have 43 direct company members, 6 association members, and we speak about totally 7 billion euro of turnover in Europe. We are the voice, and our vision is for good indoor air quality for each European citizen. So high energy and efficient ventilation is not a contradiction. So good indoor air quality combined with latest technologies, heat recovery, demand controlled, and efficient fans is, I would say, a door opener for very effective and healthy buildings. So people spending 90% of their time inside the buildings, and productivity and well-being is a key issue in our buildings. I would always say we do not build buildings for highly efficiency, we build buildings for the well-being of the people inside, and that should be our key message. So good indoor air quality is also related to good indoor air quality, to perfect ventilation systems. Speaking about that, there is a wide regulatory framework where we are busy. I would show you a bit the elements of the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive and how this is linked with the eco-design regulation, or at a later stage with the eco-design of sustainable product regulation. Clearly, each building shall be sustainable, so Sustainable Product Initiative is the whole framework we're talking about. We have eco-design regulation for fans already existing since more than 10 years. It was a success because this leads really to good, efficient fans inside the European market. But this will be replaced by eco-design for sustainable products, which is a quite advanced scope. We come later to that topics. For EVIA, the key message is how we shift all these requirements to the buildings, and the eco-design for sustainable, EPBD, Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, is a key element of this regulation in Europe, and this needs to be adapted in all European member states. I will come to that point later. What does it mean for the product level? The other key regulation on the building side is the construction product regulation, and we always have a battle in between what is a construction product and what is our machine, or let me say eco-design regulated product. So this is somehow not really clear. I will come later to that topic. Clearly, environmental product declarations are linked to the whole life cycle of a product. That means production stage, installation stage, use stage, and end-of-life stage needs to be declared, I would say, at certain times when the product is placed on the market. This will be the key element in the future. Currently, most of the elements are focused on energy alone. That means the use phase. But in the next steps, we will also declare our products, how they are being processed and manufactured. All that stages, I would say, which is included, you see here on this slide, there might be cradle to gate, I would say, declarations where a product is declared from process for manufacturing until it leaves the gate of the manufacturing process. We have cradle to gate with some further options. We have cradle to grave. That means the whole life cycle somehow is considered, I would say. And we have the cradle to cradle options at the later stage, where all the recycling options are already implemented. That each material will go, I would say, again in the production process and in the use phase process. For us, let's say, speaking about machines like fans, the operational things are the key elements, because you see, as a fan, there's only a few kilograms of materials, but the motor and the effective ventilation, air movement is a wide, I would say, tough situation. I'll come later to that point again. So, considering that for the next years, the product declaration also and product data must include also further advanced environmental product declarations, we have two regulations which are guiding that system in the building segment. It's the Ecodesign for Sustainable Product, the further development of eco-design, and it's the Construction Product Regulation. So each of these would lead to a declaration somehow which can be used on the building elements. So if we go to see the EPBD needs data for its further declaration for the whole building. So this data can come from the Construction Product Regulation or can come from the Ecodesign for Sustainable Products. So there are two tracks which both are in principle are allowed. From my understanding, also this data will lead at the Digital Product Passport, and this will later on also give you further information on the building segment. But currently, this is not really linked. So for me, it's quite clear what we find out in the regulation, that ESPR in the future will be, I would say, responsible for motors, fan, ventilation units, terminals, fan coils, all that regulation we already have on Ecodesign and which will be developed for Ecodesign. We have questions on ductwork and distribution. Is that part of the building or is that part of the machine ventilation system? So this can be challenged. Clear is any issues on fire and thermal insulation and smoke protection is an issue of the Construction Product Regulation. So if there is no link between fire, smoke and the machine, then it is quite clear that ESPR is mainly the leading regulation. So looking a bit more on the details, because we see that Ecodesign for Sustainable Products is clearly focused on a common market principle. So once a product is placed on the market, it will be only one declaration for that, full stop. Construction Product Regulation allows a bit more things on national level, because the security level on national level is a bit different in member states. This is implemented totally in Germany, for example, even regional. Even regional requirements can lead to different views on fire and smoke issues. But it is quite clear set that if the EPBD is used for the energy performance of buildings, I would say the first dominating issue should Ecodesign for Sustainable Products, where the data shall come from. And there is an option, let's say, specialists in fire and smoke issues, where national member states can, I would say, upgrade a bit or can modify a bit, but all these requirements do not constitute an unjustifiable market barrier. So we have to ensure that all the things regulated on the national level are in line with the regulatory framework of the common market. So this is a key principle which is written in EPBD and ESPR. Clearly said that member states shall use where appropriate and available harmonized instruments. So this is a clear message that the market, the political instruments, should develop harmonized procedure to minimize the risk of fragmentation and to ensure that the common market is working. So this is a key principle which is given in both of these regulations. Also looking at EPBD, national calculation methods shall not require additional information from them already given in the Ecodesign for Sustainable Products. So we have to ensure that our data which we are providing in ESPR are linked somehow with EPBD needs. This is also, we cannot look isolated at the product itself. We have to ensure that all the data for calculations are available as well. This is exactly qualified also in the FAQ, which has been published, I guess, last week on the ESPR. So we clearly find out how the product regulations should link in together. So it's clearly stated that all products which are coming from the eco-design, currently heaters, boilers, heat pump, ventilation systems, will be regulated primarily under ESPR and not construction product regulation. So it's quite clear here. In continuation of the practice, so products regulatory might be also complement this regulation by other aspects, especially for safety and whatever reason. So it is quite clear that ventilation fan products will be guided from the eco-design for sustainable products and not from the construction product regulation. It is not that simple in a building. If we come from a product, you see on the right-hand side, this is possibly in the view of a building, a component. It can be a fan wheel. Then we might have element systems, which is a fan itself. We might functional systems, which can be an air handling unit. And we come to building systems, which is the whole ventilation installation. So all these stages must be somehow declared. And for us, it's key important that each stage, if an EPBD is declared, shall be a comparable issue. If we would not allow comparability of fans or ventilation units, we do a mistake if we do not include all the parameters needed on that stage. So this is exactly the track how we come from a component to a building or a system. Furthermore, if we look, for example, for a fan has a material and some specific data on process manufacturing. So this is, I would say, the basis for a fan, how it will be declared. And then we can have a component declaration for a fan. This fan is linked or is, I would say, a component again for the air handling units. Maybe some data like operational data will be removed and replaced by specific data which are needed for the air handling unit. Let's say it's different operation, different parameters. So again, the air handling unit summarizes a fan, filters, whatever we have in an air handling unit, and this unit again can be declared. This will be declared in the ventilation system. We have much more products like ductwork, terminals, whatever is inside the ventilation systems. Again, we remove data from what is not needed. We add specific data, and we have possibly a system declaration for the ventilation system. And this is following up for the building element and can be also linked to application. So this is somehow also a cascading thing. I would say at each stage, each product, each component can be declared and compared on a model system, and at a later stage in the building and application, it leads really to the real consumption or the real declaration of a building. So this is, I would say, the view how we see the world, and we need comparability also on the product level. So with the time frame, knowledge in operational system buildings parameters is getting better. If we have an early stage of design of the building, nobody really knows what a detailed fan might be or what a ventilation system might be. So we have a low knowledge about these things, and then further in design process, we learn a bit more. Looking what currently happening, I think Alex will later go on also on that topic. We have a fragmentation on the market, and this is exactly the situation currently what we have. On the building level, there is, I would say, more options on national level, and there are different programs on national levels which allow us not really to compare the products in each of these programs. We have data sets which are, I would say, available on generic data. That means a scientist has put together some data, and these are finding in the databases. We have templates, representative, and we might have at the highest level product-specific data. Each manufacturer delivers data for its own process, which is the most advanced one. So I tried to make some consequence about what we have to do on that. When we're developing or updating regulation, that means we are involved also with the European side, with standards. We have to ensure that the data provided on eco-design fulfill the needs of EPBD. at other regulation, vice versa. So we have to ensure when we develop our data for the data set, it should include everything what is needed at a later stage, because further on it can be removed. Ensure that EPBD requirements and calculations that's top-down are based on data delivered by Ecodesign. Declaration on CPR may only provide additional data with respect to fire and smoke. Member states are allowed to specify minimum performance of a building's individual. I think this is clearly given, but it shall not limit the free movement of data. So in case they want to have advanced targets, they can use an advanced target, but it must be based on the top-down regulation. And at each stage, we have to request comparability. That means cradle to grave is essential, but we need comparability at each of these stages. This is somehow my introduction for this seminar, I would say, in this afternoon. We slightly modified the program. I hope everybody can go in line with that, because we have invited Ronald Pierce de Ravescott, the policy officer for fans, for that topic. He could not come. We wanted to give them a slot for a web seminar here. This cannot be arranged by technical reasons. So in the next page, we have a 15 minutes presentation by video by Ronald on that topic to explain us the eco-design regulation for France and the political frameworks. Then we have, starting 14:30, a detailed explanation of the fan regulation by Geoff Lockwood, our chair of the fans working group. Then we start up the seminar with the sustainability issues. Alex Rowlett, the chair of EVIA Sustainability Group, PEF LCA Group, will introduce that. And we have a small project, or a medium-sized project, I would say, where we demonstrate how this PEF LCA method can be adapted to fans, where we have the guest Wouter van Kotwijk from Eco Matters, I would say, at the end. So this will be the program for this afternoon. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to be with you today at the Chile Data Specialist Forum 2022. My name is Ronald Pierce of the European Commission DG Energy. I am part of the products team dealing with eco-design and energy labeling, which are two policy instruments to improve the energy efficiency of energy-related products. And today I will introduce you to the latest regulatory developments in EU with respect to funds energy efficiency. First, a few words of the policy context. I think I don't need to tell you, everybody is really aware of it, that the need for action to reduce our energy use in the EU is greater than ever. Of course, there is a threat of climate change, and the Green Deal adopted by the EU with an ambition for the EU to become carbon neutral by 2050. There are also the challenges of the circular economy and the circular economy action plan that was adopted by the Commission about 2 years ago. More recently, the Commission adopted the Fit for 55 package with great ambitions at the Horizon 2030, 55% reductions CO2 emissions and 9% additional energy savings. And of course, there is the current crisis with big threats to the EU energy security and high pressure on energy prices, which deserved some significant reaction by the Commission, notably with its Repower EU plan, which is a plan to rapidly reduce dependence on Russian fossil fuels and to accelerate the green transition. There was also recently a proposal for an emergency market interventions to reduce the energy bills, and also now also in July, a safe gas for winter proposal. In this context, it's important to highlight that eco-design and energy labeling and efficiency remain key instruments to reduce energy usage in the middle and long term. In this respect, the Commission has adopted this year two important elements. First, a proposal for a new eco-design for sustainable products regulation and the working plan 2022-24 for eco-design and energy labeling. And I will give you a few words of both. The proposal for a new eco-design for sustainable products regulation will replace the current eco-design directive and will aims at setting requirements for almost all categories of physical goods that are placed on the EU market, a much broader scope and also wider types of requirements. Of course, energy and resource efficiency will remain important, but all aspects related to product durability, reusability, circular economy will also be very important. We will also look at carbon and environmental footprints, information through a digital product passport, etc. At this occasion, we also intend to improve the current framework on various aspects, for example, to reinforce market surveillance, and transitional measures are foreseen for the regulations that are adopted under the current framework. Negotiations are about to start, and it will be a long process for a very important policy instrument. Regarding the eco-design energy working plan, as you can see, we have currently about 50 legal acts covering 31 product groups, which represent about 50% of EU energy consumption. And this framework needs to be regularly updated, and that takes significant amount of time. We estimate that this results in about 10% in the EU energy primary use and greenhouse gas emissions for the products in scope. And these are growing as we progressively replace the stock of inefficient products. This generates about 120 billion per year of savings in consumer expenditure in 2021, which represent about 400 euro per household, and in 22, of course, it's likely to be even more. The previous plan from 2016-2019 has delivered some great achievements, but the work is far from completed, as 40% of the items have rolled over to the current plan, to the new plan. Now, under this plan, we have about 38 reviews of existing regulation due by end of 2024, including, of course, the fans regulation, ventilation units, motors and variable speed drive, etc. And fans is one of the priority regulations to be reviewed. We also look at some new products, and horizontally we are going to focus on contribution to circular economy and also to support market surveillance. Now, coming to the topic of the day about fans that we call industrial fans that are covered by regulation 327/2011. The review of that regulation is ongoing. We got a positive opinion of the Regulatory Scrutiny Board in November 2019. Earlier this year, we organized a new consultation forum through which we collected a lot of very useful insight and input from stakeholders that we are still digesting. We are planning our inter-service consultation later this year, and an adoption possibly in second quarter 2023. So what is new? What are we changing? We are generally updating the requirements, increasing the energy efficiency thresholds, also with new formulas in order to streamline the requirements, which are a bit more complex in the previous version of the regulation. So, for example, for axial fans, you can see on the graph the requirements as they were in 2013 and 2015 in blue and then in red, and the green line on above that with the new requirements, which have been significantly increased. But you can also see that the slope has changed, meaning that for smaller fans, the increase is much more limited, and this is due to intrinsic limitation. For smaller fans, it wouldn't work, or it would be extremely difficult to keep the same slope as before. So we have adapted the slope, and that was one of the purpose of the new formula. Another aspect that we are addressing is the concept of not final assembly in the current regulation. That doesn't work, that is not clear, and that we are replacing by a new concept of complete versus incomplete fans. Incomplete fans could be either motorized impeller, air shaft fan, or impellers. And the proposal is that these incomplete fans should be tested in a compliant configuration of a complete fan. And the person who transform this incomplete fan into a complete fans would either reproduce that compliant configuration or test that product as a new fan. Another important improvement consists of the introduction of information requirements on fan efficiency at partial load at different flow and pressure along 3 performance curves, one at inherent speed, another one at minimum recommended speed, and one between the two. And the purpose is to provide system designers, ventilation system designers, information on efficiency that would enable them to optimize the system. And we did the same for other products such as electric motors and variable speed drive, by which we require information on efficiency at variable points of load and speed in order to improve system design and reduces also energy losses at the level of the system. That's very important. We are also introducing resource efficiency requirements about availability of spare parts, availability of repair and maintenance information. We are proposed to explicitly include the jet fans in the scope with dedicated limits and efficiency formula. And other aspects, for example, proposal for new allowances for reversible fans and low noise fans, some updated definitions, for example, on the different centrifugal fan types, some new or revised exemptions. We still have some question marks, for example, about fans for wind turbines or fans in range hoods or jet fans below 5 kilowatts. I mean, should they be excluded? What about protective grids? Should they be in scope? How to take them into consideration? This is still being worked on for fans below 125 watts. Clearly there, we are not proposing to put them in the scope. Just to insist that there is no political validation of these elements. This is just work in progress, and that will have to be confirmed to the inter-service consultation. Voila, I hope this is clear. I hope this was an interesting oversight of what our proposal is. And I thank you very much for your attention, and don't hesitate to contact me at my email address if you have further questions. Thank you.